Thanks for tuning in. I'm Brock Page. Boston's in Toronto this afternoon for a contest in the Dome. The Sox are the favorites, laying 160 on the money line with the total at 7.5 runs. Currently, Boston's laying 1.5 on the run line, and at the moment, 73% of the bettors think the Sox will get the job done. Boston's won 4 straight, with 3 of those victories coming by just 1 run. They're facing a Toronto team who's won just 2 of 7 at home. Today's probables are Chris Sale for Boston and Marco Estrada for Toronto. On a side note, the Red Sox are 2-1 when Chris Sale starts on the bump. Before yesterday's action, 2 out of both teams' previous 3 games have gone over the total. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I think the Boston Red Sox win this one for some money line cash. When it comes to the total, I think this one goes over the 7.5. And when it comes to the run line, I think Toronto keeps it close and covers the 1.5. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name once again is Brock Page, and I do random sports picks for fun. That said, I do have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. And with that said, let's get into some more MLB picks for Thursday, April 20th. Let's keep it in the East. I'm talking about Philadelphia at New York. They're in Flushing to finish their 3-game set with the Mets. Speaking of the Mets, they're the obvious favorites in this one, laying 175 on the money line with the total at just 6.5 runs. Currently, New York's laying 1.5 on the run line, and at the moment, 78% of the bettors think the Mets will get the job done. The Mets finally got back on track last night after losing 4 straight. They're facing a Phillies team who's won just 1 of 5 games versus teams around 500. Today's probables are Aaron Nola for the Phils and Noah Syndergaard for the Mets. On a side note, the Mets are 2-1 thus far when Syndergaard starts the game. Before yesterday's action, 2 out of both teams' previous 3 games had gone over the total. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I think the New York Mets win this one at home for some money line cash. When it comes to the total, I think this one goes over the 6.5. And when it comes to the run line, I think the Mets will win by at least 2 runs. We're going to go ahead and slide into the American League. The LA Angels are at Houston for the 4th and final game of the series. The Houston Astros are favored in this one, laying 168 on the money line. The over-under has shown some slight movement downward to an even 8 runs, and currently Houston's laying 1.5 on the run line. At the moment, 51% of the bettors think the Astros will get the job done. Speaking of the Stros, they're a solid 4-1 when facing teams under 500. They're facing a struggling Angels squad who's won just 3 of 10 games on the road. Today's probables are Shoemaker for the Angels and McCullers for Houston. On a side note, the Houston Astros are 3-0 in games when Lance McCullers makes a start. When it comes to the over-under, Angels games have gone under the line in their last 6 straight. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I think the Houston Astros get the W for some money line cash. When it comes to the total, I think this one stays under 8 runs. And when it comes to the run line, I think Houston wins by at least 2 runs. Next and final game for the show, it is going to be Kansas City at Texas. The Royals are slightly favored in this matchup, laying 125 on the money line with the total at 9 runs. Currently, KC is laying 1.5 on the run line, and at the moment, 65% of the bettors think Texas will get the job done. Speaking of the Rangers, they've won just 2 of 6 at home and just 2 of 6 versus teams around 500. They've also won just 3 of 11 going into games as the underdog. Today's probables are Duffy for KC, Cashner for the Rangers. On a side note, Kansas City is 2-1 in games where Danny Duffy makes the start. Before last night's action, 3 out of the Rangers' last 4 games went under the total. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I think the Kansas City Royals win it for some money line cash. When it comes to the total, I think this one stays under 9 runs. And when it comes to the run line, I think Kansas City will win by at least 2. Well, folks, that is going to do it for me. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. Most importantly, if you're betting any of these games, do it safe, do it responsibly, and most important, have fun. For Brock Page Predictions and Sports Picks, I'm Brock Page, and have yourself a positive day.